Hi guys, it's me. It's me again for part two. Sorry, I ended part one on mid sentence, but I literally didn't really have all too much space on my tablet, and it just stopped itself. So Ma did try to find initiatives to find a solution between mainland China and Japan over the Senkaku or Daimyo in the Chinese islands in the North China Sea, and the which was a part of the incentives that, well, when Ma did go over to see mainland China and all, is it laying down the groundwork for dealing with later tensions over opposing territorial claims in the South China Sea, where mainland China was building up islands, expanding its activities in China, or when Taiwan also had interest, as more proposals were followed by the United States and elsewhere, thereby enhancing his reputation as a diplomat and peacekeeper. And in January 2016, Taiwan's voters went to a poll and gave Tai Ing-wen, the chair of DPP, a resounding victory. She became Taiwan's first female president, obtaining more than 56% of the vote of the popular 56% of the popular vote. Besting the support received by two other candidates combined, as she won more than 3 million votes in more than the KMT's standard bearer. She also had coattails. The DPP also won a big victory in the legislative election, securing the first ever majority in the lawmaking body. Tsai had a win. Tsai had a clear mandate to govern, and so did the DPP, as the KMT was now in a weak opposition party, which meant that Tsai and a majority party in the legislature could put their agenda into effect and change Taiwan's political landscape for the foreseeable future, as relations with mainland China will certainly be different as might ties with the United States. As Taiwan would also be changed socially, economically, and in other ways. As Tsai's win was with a product of having her repair the DP's very solemn image after Chen Shui-bian's presidency following her party's 2008 defeat. She helped improve the morale and even guided it to win some small local and replacement elections. She kept the party's focus on winning the support of the electorate with policies that were rational and popular. She was patient and an effective leader, as she rode the tide of populism and eschewed issues that would hurt the DPP at the polls, as she avoided mention of former President Chen, Taiwan independence, one China, and in the 1992 consensus and agreement where both sides of the Taiwan Strait would accept one China but could define China differently. She criticised the KMT elitist style of government and its mistakes, and she and her party activists took the KMT over Taiwan's anemic economy growth, especially in the months before the election, as growing economic inequality, the plight of youth, unemployment, the lack of unemployment and lack of opportunities, energy policy, especially on nuclear energy, becoming more deeply unpopular in Taiwan after the Fukushima accident in Japan in 2011, as we majority of us would likely remember, kind of thing. Education policy insufficient, as there was insufficient focus in Taiwan. Commercial ties with mainland China, which appeared to make Taiwan dependent on mainland China to a degree and endangered Taiwan's sovereignty. As signed, the DPP exploited KMT disunity, and after the KMT's bad defeat in the 2014 elections, it had difficulty choosing a candidate to run against Tsai, as Eric Chu, the only KMT winner in the metropolitan mayoral races, was an obvious pick. However, Chu had voted to finish his term as a mayor, and he may have thought about giving the political climate running for president while it was a futile undertaking, as Wang Jinping, the Speaker of the legislature, was involved in an ongoing feud with President Ma and faced other detractors as other possible candidates did not generate much support or create hope of winning. As Hung Seo-choo, Deputy Speaker, thus won the nomination by default, as she failed to gain popularity among voters and thus lacked the necessary traction to beat Tsai. As consequence, Hung Seo-choo's inability to generate voter interest, the KMT overturned her nomination, persuaded Chu to run. As some pundits said that changing horses in midstream was not a good idea and had come too late. And in the event, Chu did not produce results in terms of changing the opinion poll, which favoured Tsai by a significant margin. James Song, former KMT Secretary General, Governor of Taiwan Province, and contender for the presidency in 2000, the vice president in 2004, and other offices thereafter, when entered the race, split the Conservative vote and in some extent diluted or brought confusion to the KMT campaign platform. And in the meantime, Tsai promised to return Taiwan to meaningful economic growth, pledging to make Taiwan's economy an innovative one to cement free trade agreements and break into regional economic organizations that were becoming increasingly important in controlling world trade, as she vowed to fix Taiwan's economy, thus also social inequalities, as she offered plans to help youth, quo policy, for dealing with Beijing and travelled to the United States to win support, or at least neutrally, and in the election by convincing official Washington and her other sincerity to keep the status quo and not provoking Beijing or taking the United States for granted, as former President Chen had, as US Department of State and other officials were impressed by her pitch, and in contrast to their stance in previous elections, they did not show favoritism to the KMT, as Tsai assumed presidency in May 2016, as she was a unique president in a number of ways beyond being Taiwan's first female president, as it was her first unmarried one. As she was a member of the minority group, the Hakka, as she had Aboriginal blood, as her previous work in government related to dealing with economic and foreign policy matters, as she was not by nature a populist, and said so even though populism was the modus operandi of her party. And by her own admission, she was not an accomplished speaker or debater, as she was an analyst by her education and the fact that she preferred to speak Mandarin Chinese rather than Manan or Taiwanese, which was the people's language. As finally, she was a moderate in the party that on many issues were not moderate, and notwithstanding her astounding election victory and a strong mandate on a government that resulted, President Tsai faced serious and formidable problems while in office, and Taiwan's economy was on the fast downward trajectory, as she had promised remedies for that and had resonance with voters what were not two promises seen as fixes. Going into the election, she alienated the business community and to some degree, attaining free trade agreements and particularly in regional economic organizations, depending on mainland China's support, and her party, a social democratic one, wanted increased social spending and more government involvement in the economy, as a higher tax were implemented, and that they would be probably discourage foreigners' investments were not seen by many business people as a good plan. As signed, the DPP was seriously perilously at odds with Beijing, as the party stood for Taiwan's greater separation and, formally speaking, Taiwan's legal independence, as Beijing was opposed to this approach, and some observers expected to put the extreme economic pressure on Taiwan, or perhaps to call on its military to threaten the use of force against Taiwan if nothing else succeeded to ensure Taiwan from Beijing's viewpoint and not to go astray, as the United States was Taiwan's protector in its salvation. but America was not in the mood to employ its military to help Taiwan, as some officials within Washington did not trust President Tsai or her party, and some in the media and academy felt that the US should abandon Taiwan in order to finally take leave of China's civil war and remove the most serious source of conflict with Beijing, as the equation looked as if it might shift when US President-elect Donald Trump went against decades of diplomatic protocol by accepting a telephone call from Tsai in December 2016. It was the first conversation between the leaders of the two governments since 1979, and it seemed to overturn the carefully calculated absence of formal diplomatic relations between Taiwan and the United States, as a phone call that prompted Beijing Foreign Ministry to lodge a formal complaint with the United States. That Tsai later said that the call did not signal policy shift in Taiwan, as Trump, for his part, recommitted to the US to the One China policy in February 2017 during his first phone conversation as president with his Beijing counterpart, Xi Jinping. So yeah, that is Taiwan for you in its entirety, and yeah, bye for now, and I'll see you when uni starts up, hopefully, if not before.